We ready? The December 14th, 2020 meeting of the Union County Zoning Board of Adjustment is now in session. I am Rick Davis, Chairman of the Union County Zoning Board of Adjustment. Also sitting on today's board, to my left is Mark Tilley, to my right is Darren Green, and Mr. Dion Edwards, Mr. Larry Britt. And we also have here present tonight is Mr. Jim King, Senior Planning Zone Administrator, and Mr. Derek Thurman, who is the attorney for the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And we also have Mr. Lee Jensen sitting in with us tonight. All right, hearing of three types: the application for a variance from the regulations in the zoning ordinance, or appeal a decision and interpretation of the zoning administrator, or an application for a special use permit. The order of each case will be as follows. All parties who plan to give testimony, pro or con, must complete the green form and be sworn in. A planning staff member will explain why a permit was denied, or why a variance request, or why a variance is requested, or the nature of the special use permit application. The board may question the planning staff member. The applicant may question the planning staff member, and then the applicant presents his testimony for the case. The board may question the applicant. The planning staff member and persons in opposition may question the applicant. The applicant may present sworn witnesses. They will be subject to cross-examination. Other parties wishing to speak pro or con will be given reasonable time to. The board may elect to take up to 30 days to render a decision. You may remain present during the deliberations, or you may call the Union County Planning Department after the session to receive the decision of the board. All exhibits must remain with the board. Please hand them first to the clerk for tagging. If you feel there is a conflict of interest of any member of the board or an association that would prejudice your case, please let it be known at the start of the hearing. We are a quasi-judicial board and can only accept sworn testimony. No hearsay evidence is admissible. Appeals from this board is to the Union County Superior Court. You have 30 days from the day of the board's written decision in which to appeal in accordance with NCGS 160A-388E. I'd like to ask everyone to please turn your cell phones off. Remind everyone, if you would, please silence them or turn them off. Okay, we do have a quorum tonight. We have 3 members present. So that does a quorum, but we have actually 5 members of all. We have 2 alternates and 3 regular board members. All right, are there any amendments that need to be made to tonight's agenda?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to amend the the order in which we're going tonight. I would like to move item F up to in the place of D and D into F. So I would like to make a motion that we change F to D and D to F.
Okay. Do I have a second on this?
I'll second that and make sure that we clarify that. I just realized that C and, I assume you want C and D move to E and F, and E and F move to C and D, because
That's correct.
that's just a technical issue, but yes. I'll second that motion.
Yes, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the first case to be heard is a variance for the applicants of Sean and Bobby Merrill. This case is still open from the last meeting, so we are going to close this public hearing. Do I hear a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close.
I'll second that. Okay. All right, so this public hearing has been closed for the applicants for Sean and Bobby Merrill. Do I hear they have withdrawn their request for a variance?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion based on the request to withdraw the petition, that this motion, that this, their request be accepted, withdraw their
that good?
I'll
Hear a
second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now, we will go down with the amendment that was just made to the case 2020 VAR 04. And y'all need to do some swapping?
We're gonna go do it right now. If you'll give us just a few minutes, we've got an overflow room. The applicants for that case are in there. We'll go switch them out.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Thank you.
Does he need to say on third one?
Okay.
Okay, we good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the first application will be the applicants of Valet Facility and Anna Trisfa, I apologize for the pronunciation of that, are requesting a variance to section 5.030 lot and building regulations and section 35.020C lot and building regulations, accessory structures and principal structures. The applicants are seeking relief of 8.5 feet from the required 15 feet setback, side setback for an existing accessory building. The property is located on 6807 Steel Road, more specifically identified by Union County as parcel 05099-004C. Okay, Mr. King, is everything complete on this?
It is.
Okay. All right, does any of the board members have a conflict with this? Okay. What would like to make known tonight, Mr. Britt and Mr. Edwards, they are serving as members tonight rather than alternates. We have 4 regular members serving. The applicant does have the privilege to extend this because it go to a 5-member meeting.
We have 5
Well,
now.
well,
We have 5.
We have 5 now. We didn't have 5 with it.
okay, so
We
we're
didn't-
good to
yeah,
go with it.
We didn't have 5 about 5 minutes.
We-
So
we-
we had
we-
5
we-
minutes.
So we're good to go then, okay.
So,
So we're good with that then. All right,
sir.
asked to hear a motion to hear the petition.
Motion, hear the petition.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there anyone that wishes to request a continuance of this hearing? Is everyone good with it? Okay. All right, the board does have a time limit set of 3-hour meeting. So if something were to happen tonight, if this meeting goes past the 3-hour meeting, then the board has the privilege of determining whether we can close the meeting and continue it later or continue in past the 3 hours. And that is something that's on the record. All right, those that are planning to give testimony, please come forward to be sworn. Those giving testimony for and against, we ask you to please come forward to be sworn. That's anyone giving evidence, for and against. Hmm. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
Yes.
Okay. All right, there's some green sheets up there. Those that are presenting evidence need to put your name and contact information on it, please.
Did the white ones work as well? Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Jensen, is the petition complete?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you bring forth the evidence, please, on your part?
This is a variance request to allow an accessory building to remain in the rear yard setback. Again, as you can see, the location here is 6807 Steel Road. As you stated before, the parcel number is 050090004C. The applicant and owner are both the same. They're Vasily and Anna Tisfra. They are requesting an 8.5-foot variance for the portion of the garage, as you can see here, that encroaches into the side yard setback. The required setback is 15 feet, even though it is in the rear yard because of the height of the building. So the height gets to a certain level that it requires that full setback. This is just kind of a blown up and oriented the right way on the paper, so you guys can kind of take a look at it and it's a little bit clearer. This is a portion, this little triangle that encroaches into that side yard setback. The Tisfras stated in their application that they originally had the building staked within this setback. However, when you can see the well was located on this site, they state in their application that when the environmental health office came out to inspect where the staking was for the house, they said, well, you need to push this building back a little bit to comply with the setback on the well. That's what caused them to push this into that side yard setback. And again, just an aerial view of the property. This is Steel Road, this is the house, and this is the building in question. The zoning in this area is all RA40. Steel Road is down in Jackson Township. If you're familiar, you go down 200, you turn off on Steel Road to the right. There's a little subdivision, or a big subdivision called Conservancy at Waxhaw Creek, but it is, Steel Road's pretty far in the southwestern portion of the county. And then the land use plan, again, it's a pretty rural area down on Steel Road. Land use plan is agricultural, which means it's large lot residential and agricultural land uses. There's no major environmental features on the property. Waxhaw Creek is a little bit to the north, kind of off this map, and then you have, a little tributary that runs to the south of the property, and a pretty good slope that drops off away going to that stream. But in terms of streams or lakes or wetlands, there's nothing major on this piece of property. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Okay, Mr. Jennings, just to clarify things, so the property owners had the building staked at a certain location, and the environmental inspector came out, he's the one that moved the stake, and that's what caused the mistake, is that correct?
That's my understanding based on the conversations I've had with the applicant and based on their application.
Did he have the authority to do that at the time?
A lot of times, the environmental health technician will, I'll say that this has happened in the past. It doesn't, we've tried to put some procedures in place to where things like this won't happen going forward, but occasionally you'll have issues that pop up like this and you kind of come up with policies so they won't happen again. But yes, there have been occasions in the past where a different department would go out to a site. It didn't have to be environmental health. It may be building code. It may be public works. It could be a number of different departments may go out, and because of some rules they have, say, well, you need to move this, in a certain direction to comply with our setbacks, but there be no follow through sort of on that, that loop to kind of close the loop with us to make sure that they're still in compliance. So, so yes, that is something that could have happened in the past. Again, now we've got procedures in place to where things like that shouldn't happen anymore. I won't say.
Bottom line is, he didn't call you and ask your permission.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess the point I was trying to make, the situation that the homeowners are in now wasn't something they did themselves, but a county employee went out and moved it, which has caused all these opportunities.
Correct. That's
Could
my
you go
understanding.
back one screen?
Right there.
Okay, maybe a different screen. Where it showed, where it showed the parcels around it, and it shows that little long skinny thing there. What is that?
This one here,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yes.
Ain't nothing ever gonna get built on that, I don't think, but a doghouse, but I just wondered, they ain't gonna meet no setback. I just wondered if it was like an HOA on something or what.
No, this is a small, I believe this is all part of the same subdivision.
Yeah, okay.
And
Just look,
there
looked
is
odd.
there is a plat. You could theoretically, technically squeeze a house on that lot.
All right, I just wondered, it looked strange. Thank
Sure.
you.
I have one
Yes, sir.
question. What year was this structure built?
I believe that is in the application. I don't recall off the top of my head, though.
I think it was 19, I saw it here somewhere.
That'll probably tell us.
2013.
13.
2013, okay. Okay. Any more questions, Mr. Jensen? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jensen.
Good evening, board members. My name is Travis Green. I'm an attorney with Helms, Robinson, Lee, and Bennett. I've been retained by help me, CIFRAS. I have trouble with it too, no matter how many times I've tried to say it to myself, to assist them with this matter. Just to give you a little bit of background, the reason this came up and came to me, my clients were in the process of selling this property and hopefully still are. And the buyers got a survey. And that survey is what you're looking at here. And that was about 2 or 3 days before their closing is when they found out about this issue. Unbeknownst to them, they've already moved out of this house. They're renting another house in preparation to move forward, to make sure everything was smooth. And then this came up. So this has been, to say a shock would be an understatement. They've actually been spending some time sleeping on the floor of this house just to make sure nothing happened to it. Unfortunately, that's been about 2 months now. So basically what happened back in 2013, my clients were contracting to build this garage, and they had it staked off, and they were ready to go. And that's when the environmental health person, unfortunately, stepped in and determined that they were not far enough away from their well, as you can see on the survey there. Well, on the back it's my right, let's see if I got a mouse here, over in this area, their septic drain field is back here. So there's no buildable area over here, and then as Lee mentioned in the back here, it slopes off. So this is really the only location that this building could have been. And then you can't really tell on any of the images that Lee showed, but this actually drops off pretty substantially too. So the back of this garage has actually had to be built up and supported in order to level off. So there's no usable area in the space. What my clients are asking is a variance in order to basically to sort of go around this 8.5 foot encroachment into the septic area, which violates sections 5.030 and 35020C. And basically, those are causing a title exception that prevents them from conveying marketable title to this property. So the buyers basically are holding their feet to the fire to resolve this in some manner. We did attempt to negotiate with their neighbor over here in Lot 6, you see, and they were more than happy to help out. Didn't have a problem with this at all. However, they've got a large institutional lender who apparently did have a problem with this and wanted no part in assisting us. So without getting that released from their loan, we still have a problem. We still have a title issue, and we still can't convey marketable title. So we have tried everything. We were just going to attempt to do a little land swap and resolve this, but that's not a feasible solution either. And I'll just point out one of the documents that you guys have is a little letter from the neighbors saying that they are in support of this, that they did try to get their lender to give them a release. It's actually signed by them. It kind of looks like this. was actually addressed to them, but they signed acknowledging that is what they're saying. They could not be with us tonight. They were out of town for work, so we attempted to get them here, but they were not here. We've of course got no opposition either. So just to go through the 5 bullet points that have to be hit in order to grant a variance. So I contend that this inability to convey this property is an unnecessary hardship put on my clients. Due to the strict adherence of the UDO, they are not able to convey this property. Basically, they've come down to 2 options. One of them is to destroy this garage, which obviously would cause great expense and a reduction in their property value. The other option would be to drastically reduce the height of the roof. I believe the roof is 25 feet. It would have to be reduced to 12 in order for that to comply, which, I mean, that's just going to change everything about it and may end up having to have some major structural changes made to that. So we believe that the loss of value, the expense that this would cost, as well as the time required to do so, would create an unnecessary hardship. And then points 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, but this is a problem that's unique to this property. It's because of this garage, it's because of the location of the well, the location of the septic drain field, the fact that the bottom or back of the backyard there drops off, and the location of the house on the property. There's just no other place to put a garage and comply with all of the setbacks that you need to comply with. And then number 4, they didn't actually, I mean, so arguably, they caused this in a manner of speak because they did construct this building. However, they did not construct it where they wanted to construct it. They constructed it believing that they were complying with all of the county's requirements, which they had done, and then the stakes were moved, and they believed that that was perfectly fine, given the fact that it was a county person doing it. Obviously, had they known what they know now, they would have had everything resurveyed and everything every time someone did something, and I hope, please, right, the procedures are in place to prevent something like this from happening, but obviously, I would argue that they did not bring this upon themselves because this is not what they intended to do. They did this based on, honestly, a county action that they would have assumed would be correct. Furthermore, this portion over here, I just want to point out again, so there's no possibility that this could be built on as it stands. The other houses, I'm not exactly sure the distance, but it's on over. And this is in such a grade that there's no potential use. You know, it's not like Lot 6 is going to come over here and build an accessory structure because it's just not feasible to do so.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Upon this building being built, all the permits and everything at that time were required that legally they
Yes, sir.
had to have to do it with?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank
And
you.
we tried to pull all the potential county records for that. As you may know, there's not a whole lot that is kept beyond a certain year, and we ran into a major hurdle with that, unfortunately. And unfortunately, with the move and everything, they weren't able to find everything that would be ideal also.
Okay.
And then the last bullet point, this is in the spirit of the ordinance, that the safety and public welfare will be secured and substantial justice will be done. Well, first of all, this has been in existence for about 7 years, give or take, and I don't think that, to be honest, anyone's noticed it in terms of public safety or welfare. I don't think that anyone is even aware of where the structure is, if you can see it based on the satellite view. The neighbors, they support this. They're the only ones that could be remotely concerned, given the potential effects that it could have on them. This is a rural area. This is not even in an HOA, where houses are close together or anything like that. And so this is not going to have granting this variance will have no change on the surrounding area. And then the last thing I'd like to point out is one way to look at this question about substantial justice is whether the public, the benefit to the public from not granting this would outweigh the damage that it would do to my clients. And I don't think that the benefit that the public would have from this 8.5-foot corner, it's not even all of the property, I don't think that remotely outweighs the damage that it would cause in my clients with having to, I'm not entirely certain how we will proceed, but potentially tearing down this structure and then dealing with the ramifications that could cause. Because obviously this is just a misunderstanding, an accident, whatever you want to call it, that has basically held up them moving their lives forward and caused them so far great expense, just they basically have 2 residences at the moment and have for about 2 months now, and will continue to do so if this stands. So in conclusion, I think that we've given you enough reasons to satisfy the factors that are required for a variance request, and we would request that that request be granted.
Okay, do you have a copy of the findings of facts that we could look at that you just read out?
We have those here.
Are they on the, I looked for them, too. That's not what he read there.
Well, I've got my notes. You can have my notes if you want.
But what, I guess what I was saying, that what you read out is not what's on here.
Sort of. Some of it is and some of it isn't. I did go on further. I'd be happy to help it any way I can.
Okay.
Hang on, let me get the first page. Okay. There we go.
And just for clarification.
You're welcome to.
Just for clarification,
Sir.
the lender on lot 6 wasn't necessarily opposed to the 8.5 foot encroachment. They loaned money on a certain size lot, and they didn't want to obviously.
To be honest, I can't
Probably.
obviously speak to their mindset.
Well, I mean,
but-
that seems like that's what probably happened.
Yeah, they just don't
They loaned
care.
money on a property as it existed, and unless that owner went through the refinance process and all that mess and sold a sliver of land.
That's right.
That's probably what, so.
That's correct.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to, and they did receive a certificate of occupancy from the county.
Yes.
building department.
Yes, sir. As far as they were aware until this survey occurred, there was no violation of any law, county ordinance, anything. And to the best of our knowledge, this is the only violation of any county law or ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Griffin? All right.
Thank you, board
Thank
members.
you. Is there anyone else presenting evidence for this variance?
No, sir, I had my client sworn in just in case we needed them to add anything to, or if you have any other questions for them, they're available to you.
Okay. Is there anyone presenting evidence against this variance? Okay, I think it'll be good to close the public hearing. All right, this time we will close the public hearing. We have concluded the portion of the cases that pertains to the presentation of evidence. The board shall now proceed to the discussion and decision portion of the cases. Interested parties are not permitted to address the board during this portion of the meeting. However, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion and vote. Discussion?
I'd like to put forth a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we grant this variance on the affected area only.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, what I would like to do is add to that, the findings of fact that the attorney presented is different, basically somewhat different than what's on the application. Can we add this as evidence to it to back up the findings of fact? Because I would.
Well, I think we still have to vote on them anyway.
We do, but I'm just asking, can we do that?
Yes.
Okay.
That was evidence that was presented. You're gonna be rereading what he just orally said. And
That's correct.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, do I hear a second? Larry, you did? Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, let's go through the findings of fact.
Oh, technical.
Hmm.
We need to go through them now that
We need to go back through them, or can we just
We-
use these?
Well, I think, you need to vote on each.
each one of
Yeah.
them.
That's correct, yes,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Okay, so yeah, then we have to do the motion.
All right. I think it was pretty well read out that the hardship was imposed not on something that the homeowners did, but it was out of their control is what was done. So are we in agreement that, do I have a vote that we agree with the finding of fact on the first one?
I agree.
I agree.
All right, do I have a motion? Well, we agree on, we'll just vote on, I'm sorry.
Right.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, going to the second one. The hardship results from unique circumstances related to the land in question. This property has no other location to construct a garage. The other areas are unbuildable due to topography and the location of the well and the location of the septic drain field. The location of the well is why it had to be moved. So this is not a problem that is in common to other owners. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Everybody's in favor?
Yeah.
All right, going to the fourth one. This hardship is not of the homeowner's own actions. Yes, they had this garage built, but they were not aware of the setback violation that had been, basically the stake had been relocated. They believe they did everything properly, they went through all inspections properly, and they got a certificate of occupancy. So it's nothing that they did, it's their fault. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then in fifth, we of course maintain that our request is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance, that the safety and welfare of the public will be secured and substantially justified will be done. This garage has been on the property for about 7 years. This location is causing no problems for anyone except the clients. The neighbors support this variance. The area is not one where houses are nearly touching and things are generally more spread out. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
All in favor?
I believe we skipped 3.
And to be clear for the minutes, I believe you voted on 2 and 3 at the same time.
We did.
Because
I'm sorry.
the finding of fact was the same for both 2 and 3.
I apologize for that. It is question 2 and 3 was the same for the findings of facts. Is that acceptable?
Yes. Yes.
Well, just, you want to just vote on 3 again, just make sure we've covered ourselves?
Be fine.
All right.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, that should conclude the evidence. So we've heard the findings of facts is clear, so we do have the motion to accept the variance. Do we need to vote on it again?
I think so.
Okay.
Now that you,
Okay, we have the motion and it has been seconded. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So the variance is granted. All right. Mr. Thurman, is there anything else that we need to cover?
nope.
Everything good? All right. Thank y'all for your time. And sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, well, we'll go into item C on the agenda. Termination of any conflicts of interest for case number 2020-VAR-03, item D. Is there any conflicts of interest?
Wait a
All right.
minute.
Sir?
We moved the agendas around.
Mm-hmm.
So
We
it's
moved
the
E and F.
2020 VAR 04 was the other, one. So we're, am I missed? No, oh, never mind. I think we're right.
We're right. So three. Okay, we're going into item D now, the variance. The applicants, Jeremy and Kelly Lewinsky, are requesting a variance to section 5.030 lot and building regulations of the Union County Development Ordinance. The applicant is seeking a relief of 33 feet from the required 40 feet front setback in order to restore a home built in 1961 prior to county-wide zoning. for property located at 7312 Brooms Old Mill Road, more specifically identified by Union County as partial number 06-159-013A. Mr. King, is the petition complete?
It is.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to hear the petition?
So moved.
This is still open, so we can continue without opening again, is that correct?
That's correct. Just to clarify for the minutes, public hearing on this matter was opened last month. The petitioners did not appear. The board took a vote on the petition without first closing the public hearing, which is required by the rules of procedure. So the vote was ineffective. And then it turns out that there was some mistaken communications with the petitioner about the night they were supposed to be here, which would have been potential grounds for the board to have heard it anyway, even if that had not happened. So we are sitting as if you had just opened the public hearing last week. You do not need to open it again. It's open, and we begin with Mr. King's presentation.
Okay, all right. So, is there anyone that wishes to request a continuance of this hearing? It's already open, so we should carry on with it. All right. Mr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to point out in the agenda packet, when you were reading from it, you stated 33 foot. That was staff's mistake. They have since changed their application to 26 foot is what they're requesting for the relief.
How much?
26. Yeah,
Now, why was it changed?
In looking at the survey is showing an encroachment of 26 foot into the rear setback.
Okay, okay.
And I'll show you that on the PowerPoint here in just one second.
Does he have to be sworn back in again?
No, Mr. King's still sworn in, isn't he?
That's correct.
Okay.
So, this is variance case 2020, VAR 03. The property owners are requesting a variance to the rear setback for a dwelling that was constructed in 1961. Property is located at 7312 Brooms Old Mill Road, and Jeremy and Kelly Lizuski, I believe, is that the right?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay.
I think at this time, so thank you.
Are both the applicant and the property owner. So what the applicant is asking for is they are asking for a variance of 26 feet. Here you can see the house. The portion that is highlighted in yellow right there is the portion of the house that is encroaching into the rear setback. The variance also that they're requesting tonight is for an addition of a wraparound porch, and also an addition of a garage to the existing structure. So, as stated before, the original house, which I'll show you the footprint of it in just a second, was constructed in 1961. In 1961, we did not have countywide zoning. Countywide zoning was not adopted until 1978. So in this case, for that existing house, the county is the one that's imposed the hardship by having zoning in place that had required setbacks.
Is there any way to zoom that up a little bit?
There is. How's that?
Okay.
So this is a blow-up right here. The reason why the first application, they were asking for 33 feet is, based on our discussions with the applicant, they were thinking they needed a front setback, and the existing house was encroaching 26 foot, and then they were going to put a front porch on top of that, which would add some additional footage to create the 33 foot. That's where that 33 foot originally came from. As we were working on our staff analysis and taking a closer look at the actual survey itself, the applicant did provide me with a blow-up. Here it's very clear that it's the rear of the house that's in the rear setback, and it's encroaching 26 feet. They are requesting that in addition to, well, as part of the variance request, that they would be allowed to add a porch that wraps around on the side of the house, and also a single-car garage that would encroach on the southern portion of the house there.
Now, will the single-car garage be attached to the house?
It would be attached to the house.
Okay.
This right here is looking at an aerial view of the property. The wraparound porch would be on this portion right here. This right here is in conformity because this portion where the porch and mudroom is going to be added is within the, or outside of the required setbacks. And then the proposed garage would be right over in here.
Would the garage be on the setback?
A portion of the garage would be encroaching into the setback as well. Not as much as the existing house, but there would be a portion of it. The existing house is going to be the bulk of what, or the greatest part of the variance itself. In just a second, I've got some layouts of the floor plan, and I think it'll be a little bit more explanatory. This is a street view of the house right here.
That's your question there.
Yes, sir.
Is it an optical illusion, or is that house leaning really bad?
I think it's probably the camera. In looking at the survey, and one of the things that the survey actually says is the survey titles the house as being dilapidated. The property owner, what they're wanting to do is go in and fix the house. What brings them before you tonight asking for this variance is our ordinance under our non-conforming section, because basically this house it was legally constructed, but it's not conforming to today's regulations, so it's called legal non-conforming. In order to do renovations to a legal non-conforming structure, you cannot exceed 50% of the value of that structure based on its most recent appraisal. Well, the most recent appraisal that we have on it is the county tax records. County tax records are valuing this home at $27,000, I think it's $700 or $500. Basically, they've got just over $13,000 that they can put towards this house without having to bring the entire house in compliance. The only way that they would be able to do renovations to this house is the house would have to be brought in compliance through a variance. Otherwise, they're capped on the amount of money that they can spend on renovations. That's the true reason why they're here tonight. It's because they're wanting to renovate this house to make it livable.
Okay. But you've got a house here that's about to fall.
Rick, I visited the site and I just looked at some pictures I took. It's not leaning.
Oh, okay, but the point is you've got a dilapidated house.
Right.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they just tear it down and move the property into a spot that it's legal and right in and build it?
Well, I mean, they have the right, I mean, if they were to remove this house, then they would have to move it within that building envelope as defined by the setbacks.
I'm just not seeing the advantage that they're getting here by putting all this money into a house that's about to fall when you're practically redoing it to begin with.
Well, the applicant is here, and I'll let her speak to that, because I don't know to what extent the house is dilapidated, if it's just cosmetically or if there's structural issues there. I can't speak to that because I have not been inside the house.
Okay.
But you said it was, you had a term a while ago that it was not livable. Dilapidated.
Yeah, it's listed on the survey as being dilapidated,
Now, who listed it on the survey? Is that the tax people or
the surveyor.
the surveyor that did the survey for what we're doing now?
Correct.
Okay, so he listed it as dilapidatable.
Yes.
And what would his terminology for dilapidatable be?
Without him being here, I would not be able to
Okay, he did,
speak.
okay, I understand. All right, thank you.
So here we are, the black lines represent the current footprint of the house. The red lines are representing what they're wanting to add. So they're wanting to add a mudroom to the front which would not be any encroachments into the setback. They're wanting to add a garage. A portion of the garage would be outside the setback, but it looks like at least half the garage would be within the setback. Please understand that the actual existing house, as it stands now, encroaches 26 foot, so it's got a greater area of nonconformity as far as the setbacks go. They do, however, want to add on a wraparound porch on the left-hand side as depicted on your screen, which will be all new construction, with a very small portion of it being outside of the existing setback. The remainder of that new construction would encroach to the same extent that the existing house does. So it would not increase the level of nonconformity, but it would add to that footprint as far as what is encroaching the 26 foot into the required 40-foot setback.
Which will make it more out of compliance.
Which is adding to, when you look at nonconformancies, a lot of ordinances in the School of Government, Rich Tucker and Adam Lovelady have recognized this through professional conferences, is that when you have a structure that is nonconforming, that you can add to that structure, but you cannot add to increase the nonconformity. So say the structure encroaches 5 foot into the setback, you couldn't do an addition that's going to make it encroach 6 foot into the setback. However, you can expand on the side so that that 5 foot goes towards the sides, and so it's that plane.
It's still only 5 foot
It's
encroachment.
still only 5 foot encroachment. So that's been the interpretation by the School of Government, which is who we typically go to for our legal advice dealing with land use law.
Can you go back to a slide there that shows the surrounding lots, please? Okay, right there. This house we see down here in the corner, is that in a development?
This house right here,
Yes.
yes, sir, that is in a development. The subject property is actually somewhat surrounded by developments. There's 2 separate developments. There's a development that it backs up to right here, but then on the other side of Brooms Old Mill Road, there's another development as well. So it's kind of, this property is kind of wedged between 2 developments.
Do you have one that shows a more zoomed out view of that?
We can pull the GIS up if you'd like for us
If
to.
you'd like, please, yes.
I would like to.
I'm just gonna, we'll come back to this.
Can you go to, there you go.
And I can pull it further out or closer in, whatever.
Now, you're good right there.
Okay,
So the 7312 is what we're talking about, correct?
that is correct. You good?
When were
I
the,
think so.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. One must have one. Go ahead.
when were the property lines established?
When were the property lines established?
Yeah, when was this setback established?
The setbacks were established in 1978 when the county adopted countywide zoning.
Okay,
This lot right here, in fact, myself and Mr. Jensen did some extensive research on this. I'm going to turn these aerials off for 1 second. basically, you've got two lots right here. This lot right here was created by a subdivision plat. It's got a plat book and map and page number. So it's a legally created lot. This lot right here is a residual of this subdivision. There, when we were going back to the old maps, there was what we call a land hook right here between these two lots, or between this subdivision and this lot. Basically, when they did the subdivision, they just abandoned this land. Now, how the land, got acquired from somebody else, if it was sold off, if it was a quick claim, I don't know. We did not go back and do a title search or anything of that nature to follow back in that respect. But we were able to determine that both of these are legal lots.
Okay.
I have a question. On the 9013B there, is there a house on that?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay, if you were going to build a house on that, because there's not an existing structure, would they be allowed to
As long as they built the house within the buildable area outside of setbacks, yes, we would.
That's what I was trying to get out. That piece of property would not be allowed to have any set, or, they couldn't encroach on the setbacks to build a house, correct?
That is correct. So they can, unless they
So
came here
the
in
only
advance
reason
and
that
requested.
this one could be allowed to be out over the setback requirement is the fact that we're trying to consider the existing structure livable or whatever and build onto it.
The existing structure is grandfathered.
Yeah.
It's allowed to be in the setbacks as is.
Right.
So the question is, if they're
The-
going
the-
to.
the question
If
is-
they're going to expand on it beyond 50% of the value of the house, then it has to be brought into either conformance or you grant a variance. Conformance would mean, shoving it forward on the lot, I guess, I'm not really sure, or you allow a variance.
Okay, relating to what you're just saying, there is enough room on this property to demolish that house, take the footprint they want to do and put it back on the property within the setbacks. Do you think that would happen?
I think that would be hard,
Yep, almost impossible.
because when you,
0.22 acres,
let me go back to the PowerPoint real quick.
How many acres was it?
0.22,
Yeah.
0.22.
Can I ask another question on the time? I know the house
Sure.
was established in 61, but when was this property acquired? And does that matter? When it was acquired by the current owner or the previous owner? About
The
dates
current
of
owner
grandfathering?
can, speak to when they purchased the property. The prior owner to that, I'm not real sure. Like I said, we did not go through, do a title search and go through all the deeds and everything to verify ownership. And
But if the property lines from the development were established after 78, how was this grandfathered in just because it was built in 61? Because the property lines were established after 78? Yes.
So you have a structure that's built in 1961. There were no setbacks. And then when they did countywide, or adopted countywide zoning in 1978, when they applied those setbacks, they basically bisected the house, rendering the house non-conforming.
If the property lines were there for the development.
Yeah, okay, the property lines, as I was stating earlier, this was a residual of the property on the other side of the street. And so those property, the property line that you're seeing from the street to the rear property line, those have been in existence as long as we can tell. Our records don't go that far back to show when that parent parcel lot of record was actually,
So the sliver of land was created by the road?
sliver of land was most likely created by the road, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And per our ordinance and everything, we've always treated that as a separate parcel if a road bisects a lot.
Okay.
Oh, what you're showing right here, right now, the little, not dotted line, dashed line, that's the actual buildable area, right?
That is correct. You're
So
building.
that's all you got. So that house would, it might fit. Be tight, wouldn't it?
It'd be tight.
Yep, okay. I think that answered one question.
Okay.
I have a question. Who developed around that?
That's a good question.
I'm going to have to defer that to Mr. Jensen. He might can answer that better than I can.
Not sworn in.
Okay, I'll tell you, let's take a break at this point, just a minute. Lee, come on up. And let's go ahead and, anyone wanting to present evidence for or against, let's just go ahead and swear everybody in at this point. Anyone that's gonna give evidence for or against, please come forward.
Yeah, and, Mr. Chair, if we could just do, yeah, 2 people on a Bible at a time.
Okay,
And we might have to go through 2 rounds of swearing in, just so that we can,
okay, did you folks hear what he was just saying? Only 2 people to a Bible. There's another Bible on the corner over here, and kind of spread out. We might could do it in 2 sessions. Everyone ready? All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
Okay. All right, y'all be seated, please. Mr. Jensen, now you can speak, Mr. Jensen.
I honestly don't know the developer. I don't know who developed these subdivisions. These were actually done prior to, or they were in process prior to my time at the county. But this is Weddington Trace, so going down Broomsville Mill Road on the left-hand side, so behind the house in question. That's Weddington Trace subdivision. And the property on the right is Weddington Chase. So you've got Weddington Trace and Weddington Chase on either side of the road.
Lee, is there anything on Brooms Old Mill Road other than this 2?
There's some properties up.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Okay, as
so
you're
it's
going
a,
up there.
it's a decent
But
road,
it all
yeah.
kind of
The,
ends there, yep.
was this, the reason I was getting at, the ones that we had problems with down there in that area, several of them that, and I can't remember his name, he's passed away now, had developed them, and I wondered if his company had,
Oh, are you referring to Bill Nolan?
yes.
I don't think so. And some of the residents that are here they could correct me. I believe one of these may be a John Whelan neighborhood. I'm not positive about what, but both of them may be. But they were developed in the kind of the early 2000s. They were still under development when I started working for the county in 2004.
All right.
Any other questions?
I just wanted some clarification. So the subdivisions occurred after 2000?
Give or take, it might have, depending on what you mean by occurred. Some of the approvals may have happened in the late 90s, but they were both, I think, under development in the early 2000s.
So Lee, let's go back if you know the answer to this question, because I just found this interesting. If you go back up to Meadow Grove, where it intersects with Brooms Old Mill, there's 2 very oddly shaped pieces of property there, once again, kind of like the one we talked about in the previous case. I bet they're owned by HOA, aren't they?
They are common open space.
That's what I figured.
Yep.
But these 2, for some reason, didn't get to be a part of common open space, did they?
Yeah, and I think
Got it.
from what Jim was kind of talking about earlier, these properties were, when you kind of looked at the old map, this one was land hooked, and if everybody knows what a land hook is, it's kind of a Z shaped symbol on a tax map that shows that 2 pieces of land are connected. Yeah, and they have the same parcel number, and that's what Jim was talking about. This piece was land hooked to the Weddington Chase development. Based on our ordinance, even though they're connected, since they're separated by a road, we consider it to be a separate parcel for development purposes. So when Weddington Chase was developed, I don't know the story. Apparently the developer didn't want this property, so they left it there with the existing house on it. And it just, it was there, it stayed there, and it's been there until now.
But they sold it to somebody, didn't they? Because they owned it.
Sure. It was somebody owned it. Like I said,
Well-
we didn't research ownership.
I have a question.
That's interesting. I'd like to kind of know, but.
Just to clarify everything we've gone over, in my mind, so we're looking at a piece of property that was left over when the subdivision was developed. There was a house left on it that is deemed to be dilapidated. And according to the variance request we're looking at, they're wanting to totally go out of bounds on a lot of, basically on two sides, and encroach the setbacks for a dilapidated house for a piece of property that was left over from creating a subdivision. Is that basically what we're talking about?
As far as the note about being dilapidated, I think that's a note that was made by the surveyor. I can't say for sure whether that house is dilapidated or not. I'm not qualified to
Okay.
make a determination like that. But, yes, you know, that is why they're here. Our ordinance would not allow them, based on the value assigned to that house, to add anything to it. Or I guess they could add a small amount to it without coming before the board. But since it's a non-conforming structure and encroaches into that rear yard setback, based on what they want to do, they have to come before the board to expand that non-conforming structure.
Lee, the other piece of property there that's just there,
That one.
who owns that?
Who owns it?
Yep.
It's owned by the same people, I think.
Oh, so it's the same couple? Okay,
The same people on both of
Yes.
those lots?
okay. I just wondered, that's,
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, they own both these lots.
okay,
They own both lots,
Yes.
okay.
but they're wanting to a variance on that lot,
Yes,
but they still own the one beside of
they
it.
do. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank you.
From my past experience, and I may not be that way here, but the owner would be forced to merge those lots.
Well, this is a lot of record, meaning this lot existed because it was a piece of the Weddington Chase property, but because it was separated by Broomsville Mill Road, our ordinance defines that as a separate lot for planning and zoning purposes. So it is a lot of record. This is also a legal lot. So both of these lots were created legally, so they're legal lots. So we can't force them to combine those two lots together. If they had been created illegally for some reason, then we could say, yes, you have to put those lots together.
But the one lot, you couldn't build on it today.
Correct. Well, you could, let's say, for example, this lot, this quarter-acre lot, give or take, you could somehow get a sewer tap for it, and you could get a water line for it, and you could build a house
Triangular shaped house.
within this building envelope, as Jim referred to it a while ago. If this was a vacant lot today, because it's a lot of record, and you could build a house within that building envelope, you could get a permit to build on it.
Okay. Could they go in there, what is it? They could go in there and do $13,000 worth of upgrade,
Give or
if I think that's what was said, to the existing building and not, go out either way. But if they're granted the variance to go out, they can do more than that? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
All right, any other questions? Just a minute, please. Any other questions, Ms. Jensen?
I have one. Both these lots is an A and a B lot, and they were lots of record. Are they separate lots of record, or is it one lot of record that's,
They're separate lots of record.
and does the date of that record matter?
As long as it was before 1978. But we have copies in our office of the tax maps that were in effect when the county first adopted its zoning and subdivision regulations. So it shows all those lots. That's what Jim was talking about when we went back and kind of looked at these to figure out which ones were lots of record and which ones weren't. So these both showed up as lots of record.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Jensen? Okay, thank you, Mr. Jensen. Okay, anyone that's wanting to present evidence for the variance? Okay, please state your name.
Hello, sir.
Come up to the microphone, please.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. My name is Kelly Lisowski. I'm sorry, I'm a little small, but first, I do want to apologize to everybody that I wasn't here the first time. I was working with Mr. King, who's been very helpful. This is the first house I'm ever going to build. As you could tell, I'm probably the brownest person in this entire room. I came from the Philippines about 2001 before everything went downhill. And it was this year is my first year to perform a jury duty, actually, across the building as a citizen of this country. So I'm coming to you for help, sir, because I believe that I have earned the opportunity to be a citizen of this country and of service to this community. As you know, coronavirus went down. Like many people, I have lost a lot. And our goal is for us to build a small house where we're asking for your variance today. And you have absolute good questions, sir, of why are we trying to build a house on that property? When we bought that property, sir, I have 2 children. I have a high school and a 3-year-old, and the goal is for us to just provide, a better school for my son. My son worked very hard to get into a good school in the area, but I can't afford it. And when we saw the property that went on sale, we actually just bought the property, sir, a couple of months ago. The goal is for us to actually build a small house in the property so that my children could continue to go to the school. He finally got in the high school. And for us to actually sell the other property and help build whatever purchase, sell price we get to help build that small house. I don't know what dilapidated means, but what I could tell you is the current building on the property, sir, the slab is usable. I believe dilapidated in a sense that the roof has already sunken. If I'm not mistaken, there was a fire inside the property at some point. You cannot live in the property today, I will tell you that. I am going to put my children in there, so I will make sure that my children have a safe house to live in, enough for us to, have a sustainable home. Unfortunately, from what I have gathered, I have been researching on this day and night. I work full-time, I'm a mother of 2, and from what I have gathered, for us to be able to build up for a 2-story building with 3 bedrooms, 1 for me, 1 for my 2 children, and just a simple house, a 1,600 square foot house. We have a budget of no more than $150,000. If money grows on trees, gentlemen, I will not be coming in front of you, but like many people, we're kind of restricted in budget. I'm just trying to provide for my family. So what I'm asking today is enable for us to be able to build the property properly. I'm asking for your help to enforce the law by us being able to build, and follow the rule and the code and whatever it may be, enable for us to first, build this as it should be. And in my opinion, it's actually something that's going to benefit not just my family, but also this county, because it will increase the property value of that particular property, which, would in turn be, income for the county. And from what we have gathered, some of the neighbors in the area have said that particular property has been a problem. They said that it has been used for children drinking in the property or like doing drugs or whatsoever. So before we actually made an offer in the property, they were very encouraging and they were glad that we're finally putting something in there that would prevent all that from happening and hopefully be able to have an area that is that is, in my opinion, something that is better for the environment and for the atmosphere with other children and the neighborhood as well. That particular property is not a part of any of the other neighborhoods around. It's actually in a cul-de-sac. All the other neighbors that we have, they're facing the other way, so there's really no neighbors around us, but it's a walking distance to all the other children that my children already know because of, the school that they're going into. So, as I mentioned, I would really like to ask your help if there's any way that you would consider on granting us the variance so that I could properly build on the property and hopefully with that bring value to the county.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You said there was a fire in the house previously.
Not recently. It looks like there was a fire in the house at some point, sir. In fact, when we were doing a lot of the surveys around the house and before we even bought the house, we kind of have already had an idea of how much to rebuild, what aspects of the house we could use and what we cannot, and what would be subject to the code from the
Okay,
county and
okay.
whatnot. But long story short, sir, we did a comparison of how much it would cost to build from nothing versus rebuilding that house, and we have found that though they call it dilapidated, there's still aspects of the house that we could actually use and save us money, and that is the reason why we're hoping to take advantage of that and hopefully try to save as much money and still be able to build a house that is up to code and that in the long term would bring more value, to the
Okay, I think you've-
community and to the county.
I think you've
Yes,
already
sir.
covered that. My question being, what percentage of the house is going to have to be torn apart for you to start building it back? 50% of it, 25%, 75% of it?
I would say, from what we have been told, my percentage number may be wrong, but somewhere around 30 to 45%. The walls of the house, you could still use. The floor of the house, the slab where it's at, you could still use.
Wait, is it a cement slab?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, sir. There's definitely no carpet or anything in there. We're gonna have to put like carpet or wood or tile or whatever. But yes, sir, like the bottom where you put the carpet and whatnot, yes, it's cement.
Is there a well and septic tank on the lot?
Well, I don't have a copy, sir, but do you mind if I share something to you, a picture?
Sure.
I was actually working
Wait a
with
minute, you'll have to let Mr. King bring it.
No problem. If you don't mind, sir. I was working with Tracy. I believe she was one of the directors in the Septic or, I can't remember what her name is, but she was actually asking about the septic and the well, sir. When the parcels on the property were split, apparently the well that was supposed to service the house is actually sitting on the neighbors, so we cannot use it. So we have to put a new well in there, and we already contracted a surveyor that said it is actually feasible to put the well on the side of the house or within that small triangle, and a septic. And the septic is not usable. I believe it was outdated. It doesn't pass any coding restrictions or whatever. But we need to put a new well, and they said that they recommend the well also on the side of the house. It is a very small lot that we could build in, and that is the reason we cannot move the house forward. And that's the reason why we're also trying to take advantage of the existing slab already in there.
Okay, do you own that other lot there?
Yes, sir, and that's the lot that we were hoping to sell to help
But you've
the
not sold
financing.
it.
We have not sold it yet. Yes, sir, and that's what we were hoping, is that we could sell, we could get the appropriate permission to build in here so that we could sell the other property and help in building it.
And environmental health has told you, that's come out there and looked at it and says you have room to put the well and the septic tank on this lot.
Yes, sir. But she said that we need to get permits, I guess, before all that happens. And I also actually contracted a surveyor to help us identify the existing ones and where the new ones will be. So because we need a new one,
Okay,
we
can I
cannot
ask-
use the existing
ask you
ones
a
in there.
question?
Yes, sir.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, in order to build this house,
Yes, sir.
in order to put a well and a septic tank on it, to give you enough room for the well and the septic tank, the house has got to go back exactly where it is. Or otherwise, you won't have enough area to put a well and a
Yes,
septic
sir.
tank.
Unfortunately, we cannot move the slab any further than where it is. That's why we gotta use what we have in there and basically just build up. But unable for me to even build up, not unless I have the permission to build more than the, I guess, 13,000 or whatnot, it would be impossible for us to even put the existing property up to code. And that's the only goal I have, sir, is just for me,
Oh,
that when we
I
build
understand
it,
what you're saying.
I
That's
just
enough.
want to make sure we
That's
build
enough.
it right,
Sure.
sir.
You've answered my question.
Thank-
But I guess the thing that's bothered me is that you've come to us to give you a variance on a house that's encroaching the setbacks, which is going to encroach the setbacks even more, and then you're gonna leave enough room to put a well and a septic tank on it. That's, for some reason, that's bothering me.
No, sir, the setback that we're requesting is actually for the existing building that's already over there, sir.
Yes, ma'am, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So my goal, sir, is to make the most of what's already in there and actually not to ask for any more, knowing that we have limited space to build in.
But the addition that you're gonna be putting on the house is going to be encroaching the setbacks even more.
The what?
Basically, is that, Mr. King, is that right?
There will be additional area in that setback area, yes.
Okay.
As far as not, the little non-conformity left, but as far as the match area, yes.
You want to see it? All right, any other questions? From Ms. Kelly? We good? All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to present evidence for? Yes, sir.
I got some questions for the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
May I?
Yes, please come forward and identify yourself. And everyone, please remember, if you're giving witness, giving testimony for or against, be sure to fill out the little slips there, please.
Yes, sir.
Christopher Duggan, I represent the Campanies in this matter.
Now, who are the Campanies?
Campanies are the property owners directly behind where the well that we talked about.
Okay.
Their property. Ms. Lewinsky, do you also go by Marie Jaylene Kelly Alvarez?
Yes, sir. Fortunately, I came from a Catholic family and they give you 3 names, but I go
Sure.
by Kelly.
I can appreciate that.
So,
You said that you wanted to build this structure for your children,
yes, sir.
to get them into a better school.
Yes, sir. My son actually got in one of those programs that you only get through lottery, I guess, in high school in Union County. So we're hoping to go in that area so that my son could continue to go in that school.
Okay, what school is that?
Right now, it's in Marvin.
You own a house in Marvin, is that right?
I do not own a house in Marvin. I cannot afford a house in Marvin. If I could, I wouldn't be forcing to build in
Okay,
there.
I've got a tax record here of a house at 5828 Cross Point Court.
Yes, sir. It's actually a house that we put in market.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And who did, you and your husband?
Yes, sir.
And that house has a tax value of $452,200.
Yes, sir, because we have to put it on the house and market, because after me losing my job, we lost a lot of things, and right now we're downsizing to 1,500.
Okay,
That's
so
absolutely correct.
You're going down, do you have anything to show this panel that the house?
No,
is
sir,
on?
because I don't think it's necessary. I came to you, sir, to ask for your help so that I could.
Ma'am, please.
Yes, sir.
You've addressed us. We're just addressing the questions he has, please.
Yes, sir, but my point is, his questions are irrelevant.
Well,
And the reason why I said that that is irrelevant is because the property that I have right now, sir, the reason why we are moving into this area has nothing to do with the current property that we have. In fact, the reason that why we're here today is so that I could build a new house and go away from what we cannot, you know, continue to pay going forward, so.
What about the house you own in Wingate?
Yes, sir.
You have a house there as well?
Yes, sir. That house is actually right now being rented.
Okay.
Mhm.
You also have a house, this one is in Indian Trail.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right? That's in the Taylor Glen
Mhm.
subdivision?
Yes, sir.
And you have another house that's located in Union County, Wesley Chapel.
Yes, sir. And they're all being rented. And the reason why they're being rented is so that we could build equity, and without it being rented, it would have gone to foreclosure as well.
So is your current house, the $452,000 house, is that current house in foreclosure?
Not yet, sir. It's in short sale.
Okay.
Yep, that's what we're trying to do, is trying to avoid exactly that, and so that it doesn't go into foreclosure.
Did you put any of the other houses that you own on the market?
Not yet, sir, because they are currently rented, and the rent is basically the one paying for the house, because we cannot pay for it.
You said that this house was not dilapidated.
I don't know what the word dilapidated, sir, but I guess from what the surveyor said, that's what dilapidated is.
Walls
But
are-
at
walls
least-
are torn out of it?
The four walls are still there. There are no windows, there are no doors. I guess the,
Before we get too far into the testimony, I want you to
Yes,
take a
sir.
look at these pictures.
no problem. Yes, sir.
And you let us know that this house is not dilapidated.
I don't know what dilapidated, sir, but I believe that from what we have
Mr.
gathered from the
Thurman,
construction
Could you
person.
come close to the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Hold on, is it Mr. King?
I was going to get a copy of those pictures he's presenting for the board.
Okay, thank you.
Here, okay, sorry. Here you go, Jim. You got a set
Now, will
for
these be
everyone?
presented as evidence?
Yes,
This will be an evidence, so you're going to,
Yes.
as different exhibits.
yes, well, these are all packets of the same,
Okay.
so you can have one for each when they're out. And I'll mark it as an exhibit.
So this will be Exhibit A.
Yes, sir. And those pictures that you have there, those are of the inside of the house,
Sure.
is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Perfect.
I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna mark as Exhibit B here.
This one is A, and you got another one for B.
I'm gonna do another one for B here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now,
Yep,
Exhibit
perfect.
B, those photographs of the outside of the house? Those photographs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Accurately depict the outside of the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And photographs accurately depict the inside of the house?
Yep.
And this will be Exhibit B.
That would be Exhibit B.
Yes, sir. This is exactly what the house is today. You cannot live inside, as I mentioned, but as you could see on the pamphlet in here, the four walls are still up.
Is there any asbestos in the house?
I do not know, sir. We have not gone through that, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the things I have to go through once we start building.
Did you receive any letters from county health regarding the septic issues?
No, sir. The current septic in there is not usable. That's why we have to put a new one. That's what the inspector says.
And the current house is designed for 800 square foot.
Yes, sir.
And you're wanting to raise and put a second floor on?
Yes, sir, because at 800 square foot, you can't really fit 3 bedrooms and standard kitchen and a living room.
And you want to put 3 more bathrooms upstairs? I believe that's what was on your plans.
Or some, yes, sir. I mean, the goal is for us to have at least 1 bathroom for us on top and another bathroom for the children, maybe half a bathroom at the bottom.
And you also want to build a garage, and you seek a variance for those setbacks.
Does the garage?
You're going to have a portion of the garage.
Okay, yes, sir, probably.
And then you also want to seek a variance for the porch.
Yes, sir. The porch would be, as much as I would like to have a wraparound porch, it would depend on the budget. But yes, it would be ideal, only because it would be safer for my children to be somewhere not in the woods.
Okay, and the increase in height, that whole second floor is an increase in that non-conforming space. Would
Correct,
you
yes,
agree?
enable for us to be able to build the house. And yes, we're gonna have to, request for variance, that's correct.
So if I'm correct, you're asking for a variance of the back setback, a variance of the garage side setback, a variance of the porch setback. Is that right?
If that is included in this 26 foot, or whatever we could put in the 26 foot.
And you're also asking this panel for a variance from the Uniform Development Ordinance, which requires that if you have to put more than 50% investment into rehab, that it loses its non-conforming status. Is that right?
Is that correct, sir? I'm sorry.
You'd have to bring it in full conformance.
Yes, yes, sir.
So that's another variance you're looking for. Is that right?
I believe that the variance we're looking for is supposed to address all those, sir.
Do you know exactly where on the property the septic tank would go?
Yes, sir. From what we gathered, we have an option at the front, on the side, or at the, I think on this side of the house, by the porch, or
Right.
at least the planned porch.
But there is a well on my client's property, is that right?
Yes, sir. That's why we have to build a new one, so, because it's actually in their property. Obviously, we can't use it.
Okay. And are you aware of the regulations that require that every sanitary sewer treatment or disposal system shall be located at least a minimal horizontal distance of 100 feet from a private well?
No, sir, I don't know that. When we were asking from the, I guess from whomever the inspector is, Tracy, I can't remember what her name is, but I could provide that information to you later. They said that, we would be able to add a septic and a tank because we cannot tap in the city sewer or water, or the county sewer or water, so we have to put one in the property. But it has to go through the whole permit and whatever we need to do in there.
Ms. Dugan, could you extend a little bit more on that 100 foot that you were just asking her about?
And I think Jim is, Mr. King is looking something up, but I have it here as 15A NCAC 18A.1950, location of sanitary sewer system. And it's going to be A1.
Does that fall within the guidelines of what they're wanting to do with the house?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. This will be exhibit A1,
This would be exhibit C.
C, okay.
Under A1.
Yes, sir. At this point, we were given contingents on the sewer and water, depending on whatever the city's inspection is.
Did you ask for any kind of documentation from county health regarding your request?
Yes, sir. Actually, they have it with me. They sent it to me by email, and they said that when we actually submitted this, they provided like a contingency or a non-applicant, was it a not approved review, and the contingency is gonna be based on water and septic, whatever the county is going to, grant permission to do, and whatever the variance application that we have today.
So this board wouldn't know that if they grant the variance, county may decline to allow you to put a septic or a well in.
It's actually the opposite, sir. The well and septic is contingent upon the application for our variance.
We don't have anybody here from the county
Yes, sir.
testify to that.
And I'd be more than happy to provide that information, sir. Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons I had to make sure I submit before I come in front of you, sir, because based on that review result, I had to have a septic and well surveyor, go to the property, identify the existing well and septic, identify if it's even feasible for us to put one in there. And that's why I was able to go in front of you, is without me going in front of, or without me providing that information to Tracy, we wouldn't have been able to come in front of you.
Do you have any evidence I'm sorry, do you have any,
understand that the 100-foot setback or the 100-foot requirement from the well and the sewer has absolutely nothing to do with being granted a variance? In other words, you can't be granted a variance on those numbers. I
Okay.
don't care, in this county, you've got to have a 100-foot distance between a well and a septic system. And it's gotta be 100 foot from anybody else's. If not, people end up with really nasty water to drink.
Of course, of course.
do you say you had someone come look at this and said,
Yes, sir, we
do
actually.
you have
hired
anything you
somebody-
can present to us that shows that this person said that a well and septic tank would fit on this property?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do you have anything to present to us that shows someone who knows what wells and septic tanks are, that a well and septic tank would fit on this property by law?
Yes, sir, I actually have a surveyor,
Okay, I'd like to
Let
see
me-
that if you could.
so far, this is the only information I got from the surveyor, but I could provide you more information that I didn't print from the email. But that was actually from what the surveyor provided us when they were trying to identify the existing well and septic in the property.
A well and septic would still have to be permitted.
I
Yes,
know,
sir.
but I'm just trying to understand.
Regardless of, you can grant or not grant the variance, whatever, however you rule, they would still have to go through that process.
Yes, sir.
Yes, but the thing of that is, if you grant a variance, the variance is there. And then if the other things don't pass, it gives room for something else that wasn't brought here.
Well, I think you could limit well,
I think the evidence should be here that it's done right before anything's granted.
I have a hard time approving anything if a well and septic tank, I'm concerned
Well,
about
I
it.
have a hard time.
If,
Gentlemen?
like Mr. Tilley said, if we approved it, I guess we could approve it on contention
Right.
and all that good stuff, but, I'm just okay, I'm sorry.
Gentlemen, what I could ask of you is this, and I couldn't ask for more than that, right? And I totally understand where you're coming from, sir. I actually work in audit, so I understand how important it is to enforce law. And I understand why I'm being questioned today. At the end of the day, if we cannot get permit to properly build on the property, I'm not gonna waste more money trying to force something I cannot pursue. But what I can ask of you today, sir, is if you could consider at least granting us contingency so that I could move forward on identifying if we could get permits, the appropriate permits to build those water and sewer in the property. If I could get permits for those, that would be very helpful.
Well,
Okay, let's get back to Mr.
wait just a minute. Just so we are real clear on this,
Yes, sir.
the fact that a well and a septic system has to be 100 foot apart,
Yes, sir.
and that septic system has to be 100 foot or more away from anybody else's well and septic system. You ain't got enough room on this piece of property to do what you're wanting under today's laws. Even if you move that structure to the middle of that property, you do not have enough room to put a well and a septic tank on it under today's conditions with the amount of bathrooms you're wanting. There's just no way without contaminating wells in the surrounding area. No way.
I think we're kind of getting away from what the variance is actually going to.
that
They're
is-
asking for a variance to build on the property with just disregard the well septic tank. Is that correct? The
I agree.
variance,
That's an issue for environmental health.
that's correct.
That's not an issue for this board, and these things are done in pieces.
That's correct.
I mean, it may be that environmental health won't even come out and do the permitting until they know what can even be built on.
Right.
You know, so
We
that's
just need to
not
get
an
back to
issue
where
for the
we
board.
need to be.
I understand why it's been brought up, I understand the concern, but it's really not an issue for the board. It's not one of your 5 elements that you're considering here.
But I disagree with that on the point, she brought it into evidence, but she didn't bring nobody to support what she said. She's giving us pieces of papers here, telling us things, and she has absolutely nobody here from health or environmental services to prove this to be correct or wrong.
I think it's
So
fair to
she laid it on the table, not me.
I think it's fair to consider the fact that one of the reasons why she states she can't move the house is because of this issue. And you can consider what evidence she's brought of that, you know, beyond, you know, so that's a good point. It's not so much the 100-foot issue as it's a reason why the house can't be moved, and you can weigh that, what evidence she's brought on that point, however you wish to weigh it.
Okay. All right, let's give Mr. Dugan,
Yeah, I
because you
just have
continue crossing.
A couple more questions. You purchased both this lot with the house.
Could you come back to the microphone with?
Oh, I'm sorry. You purchased both this lot with the house on it, as well as the lot that's south of that lot
Yes,
that
sir.
we're here for today. You purchased that both on July 10th, 2020, is that right?
Yep.
And according to the tax records here, you paid, for both of those lots, you paid $250,000?
No.
It has a sale amount of $125,000 for the south lot, and it has a sale amount here of $125,000 for the north lot.
No, sir, actually, we got the $125,000 for both lots, and the only reason we actually determined to buy the property is because it's a split parcel, and when we were asking the seller, since it's a split parcel, the goal is for us to actually sell the bigger lot and actually build on the small one.
So-
And if it wasn't a separate parcel, it wouldn't have been, we wouldn't have been able to buy it.
So the tax records are wrong on the sale amounts? for
I believe
these
they
lots?
are wrong.
Okay.
At least, I'm pretty sure I have, like, tax and title and closing information. In fact, I may have that information available. Yes, sir. Yeah, and
And you purchased both the lots at the same time?
yes, sir. The lot is sold by the same person, and I believe HUD one is like a settlement with all that information, and it says 124,900.
May I see that, please? Those parcels. Okay. And for this board's information, that is correct. So for both lots, it was $125,000. So the tax records are off. But you purchased both of the lots for $125,000, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How did you learn about this lot?
Actually, we were just looking, like what I mentioned, we were looking for a property that is in an area where the schools are that we could afford. This is the only property that we saw that is within our price range that we know we could build in. Otherwise, my children would have to move to a different school.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is any of the other property that you own in this district the same school district of where you want to be in?
No, sir, they are in an entirely different school.
That's good.
Unfortunately for
That's good.
Union
That's all I
County,
need.
they're assigned.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yep.
But you're currently living in the same school district?
Yep.
And did you notice this house on a Zillow search?
I can't remember where we found it, sir, but why is that irrelevant? Why is that relevant?
Well, I'm just wondering, was the purpose for you to build two houses, one on each lot? and
No,
sell
sir. The goal is for us to build in this house and sell the other. If you are interested, I'd be more than happy to sell it to you.
it? The other lot, would you be able to put a house on it within all the?
Anyone
regulations?
could build a house in that lot, I believe, but the goal is for us to make use of the smaller lot for our family, and whomever is going to buy that other lot, they could use it whatever they want.
I've got no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to present?
I have a
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry, I apologize. Hold on, ma'am. Hold on, ma'am.
I have a question, will you? If something's brought up before us, whether you feel it's relevant or not, it is been brought before us and as evidence.
Okay, yes, sir.
So you said it was irrelevant earlier about how many rental houses you have. But you also agreed with him that you have the rental houses, correct? But yet, to asking for this variance, you're telling us that you're under a huge hardship for your children, but you own 3 or 4 more different properties that you could live in if you chose to.
Yes, sir. Let me explain that to you. We have two choices. Either to let that house go and that house to go in foreclosure, or that house, nobody would pay, and at the end of the day, who's gonna benefit from it? Right now, the current houses that we own, we don't even pay. The renters are paying for it right now. Yes, we could move in those houses. Those houses are actually assigned to an entirely different school, which defeats the purpose of my son applying for the special program in his school that he is in right now.
All right, thank you.
So, but yes, sir.
Does anyone else have questions? Okay, hold on just a minute. Okay. Mr. Thurman, anything that we need to cover with her? Is everything good? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
All right, anyone else presenting evidence for the variance?
Sir, can I ask a question?
Come back up to the podium, please.
Is there anything in particular that I can provide you or you guys will need from the environmental for the
ma'am.
septic and the sewer?
No, ma'am.
Okay, only because, sir, that actually was the next step I was supposed to do after this application. And if that is something that would be helpful in you guys making a decision, I'd be more than happy to circle back and provide you that information,
I
only
don't
because
think
I've
it would be-
already been working with
I don't
them.
think it'd be beneficial with it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Or is anyone else wanting to present evidence for the variance? Okay, those interested in presenting evidence against the variance, please come. One at a time, please come forward. Or
Again.
husband and wife come together, whatever.
Again, Chris Duggan on behalf of the Campanies. Before I begin asking questions of Ms. Campany, maybe I'll wait till the end of the question. Ms. Campany, we showed Exhibit A and Exhibit B, which were 2 sets of photographs. Did you take these photographs?
Yes,
When did you take those photographs?
October 25th.
Okay, and those photographs accurately depict the structure as it existed at that time?
Correct.
Has there been any work to your knowledge on the property?
No.
Can you state your address for the record?
Yeah, 1208 Crooked River Drive.
And what was your name, please?
Betsy Campany. It's like company, but it's an A, not an O.
And for some reason, when she told me that, it screwed me up even more.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know why, but, all right, Ms. Campany, how long have you been there?
We moved in July of 2014.
And you live in the house that we heard about the well?
Yes, correct.
And since 2014, is that house that's the request for the variance, has that house always been there?
Yes.
And what condition has that house been in since you've been there in 2014?
Similar, it's slowly deteriorated more, the roof looks like it's deteriorating. When we moved in, the front porch actually had a cover over it, which has since, fallen off into the ground, I'm assuming. But yeah, it's just been, dilapidated.
Have you had, you or neighbors taken any action over time with regard to that property and cleanup of that property?
Yes, we have myself personally and neighbors who are present and neighbors who are not present. One of our neighbors on the other side, their husband is recovering from surgery, could not make it. They were here at the last meeting. But we have all called Waxhaw. I've tried Marvin. I've tried Weddington on several occasions to have somebody come out to clean it up, to test it for asbestos. And it didn't matter who I called, nobody wanted to take responsibility for it, neither Waxhaw, no, that's in Marvin. Marvin, no, I'm sorry, that's Weddington. Weddington, no, that's Waxhaw. Thank you very much.
And what school district are you in?
Cuthbertson, not Marvin.
Okay, so the house that the applicant currently lives at, what school district is that in, to your knowledge?
I don't know where they currently live, in Cross Point.
Right.
It's certainly not Cuthbertson. We actually drove by it just a couple weeks ago to see whether or not it was on the market for sale, because we knew the Variance was requesting a place for their children to live. And we saw that they owned property that they were living in that was valued at over $400,000, and it didn't seem to make a lot of sense to us. So we drove by it, and there is no for sale sign on there, and I just actually pulled it up on both Realtor and Zillow, and there is no short sale and no for sale sign. And it's not for sale currently.
Okay. Let me ask, the well that you have on your property,
Yes.
did you take any photographs of that well?
What we did is I did a Google Earth pinpointing the geolocation of it and drew a 100-foot linear line around there to see whether or not they could put a sewage treatment. You do have that, I hope?
Yes, I do have
Okay. A sewage treatment, septic, and not encroach on our property or our, well, there it is.
I'm showing you what we're gonna mark as Exhibit D.
Now, will we be able to accept that because of the septic system not being part of the variance? Can we accept that as an exhibit?
I think it's really important for you to see the encroachment.
Well, it just
It's
shows
not-
you the 100 foot, I mean.
I mean, is it relevant to
You
what
can
we're
accept it as an exhibit. What relevance you tag to it is up to you.
Thank you.
Whether, you weigh whether or not it's important when you're making your findings of fact.
And I will suggest that, the findings of fact that you all will have as part of it, number 5, by granting the variance, the security ordinance will be observed. Public safety and welfare will be secured. That's one of your considerations. So this is the Google Earth that you drew,
Correct.
and you marked the wellhead where your well is
Where-
located on your property?
Yes.
Okay, and your house is to the right of that circle, is that correct?
I guess, yeah, I mean, yes, it is, to the lower right.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry.
Is this Exhibit D?
This is Exhibit D, isn't dog?
Okay, but let's go back to where it says wellhead.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your well?
That's my well. That is my well. That is on my property, that is my well, and it services both watering for my pets as well as my yard irrigation. And when my, nieces and nephews visit, the sprinklers go on, they run around in there.
And I'm gonna ask Mr. King to hand up what is Exhibit E. And this will have the plat of Ms. Campany's home, and you'll see the marking where the well is.
So you're using this as to go under number 5, the findings of fact for health and welfare?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's the Google map that you drew of your wellhead and the surrounding 100-foot circle, is that correct?
I'm sorry. I didn't-
That's the wellhead that you drew
Yes.
in the surrounding circle?
Correct.
Now, Ms. Campany, it concerns you that your well is within that area, that circle. Why?
Again, we have dogs that are outside that run around. I feed them off of water that comes out of that well. I irrigate my lawn on that well, and I'm one of 7 children. I have 20 nieces and nephews that periodically visit, and when they do, and it's hot, we turn the sprinkler on and they run around in my backyard. And if it's contaminated, then they're running around in poop water.
Now, is this gonna be considered Exhibit E?
E is an echo. Do you believe that the proposed variance fits within the spirit of the surrounding area?
Absolutely not.
And that proposed variance is adding a second floor, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you believe that the proposed variance meets within the spirit of the ordinance?
No.
Have you noticed any markings recently regarding any piping that's on the property?
Yes.
And what have you seen from your yard?
So coming out, if you want to look at this Google Earth map, just so that we're all looking at the same piece of information, coming off the left side of the dilapidated structure, we noticed about 2 weeks ago, there is some PVC piping, maybe that wide around. I didn't measure it. It looks like it's just laying on top of the ground. We haven't paid any attention to it because all back in those 2 lots of land is a lot of debris, construction. It's been kind of a dumping ground, if you will, over the years. Now after 2 weeks, we see pink flags along both sides of that PVC piping come out. I inspected it. My husband and I walked back and inspected, what are these flags for? The piping comes out of the ground near the structure, maybe 20 feet from the structure, and it runs along the top of the ground, maybe 10 or 15 feet, breaks in a couple of places, and then runs again. I don't know what it's for. Our assumption is it might have been a pipe that would have been for maybe the current septic system, empties right onto my property and my neighbor's property above the ground.
What is your request of this board here tonight?
To absolutely not only decline the variance, but to make that structure not buildable, because there is no way to put in an appropriate water and septic system that does not inhibit and the health of the neighbors in the surrounding neighborhoods. And it's an eyesore, and it is a dangerous structure. The roof looks like it's caving in. It needs to be torn down for safety. I think if those people want to build on that property, they should combine those lots. There's more than ample room for them to have a well, a septic, and a structure that meets with the current building codes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And to wrap up that testimony, it's our position that we're actually seeking several variances here. So if you look at the Uniform Development Ordinance, the Article 90 deals with nonconformities, nonconformity use, nonconformity structures, and it gets into that sometimes regulations are put in place and they trip up these nonconforming type uses or structures. Under 90.010-C, authority to continue. Any nonconformity that exists on the ordinance effective dates specified in section 1.030, or any situation that becomes nonconforming upon adoption of any amendment to this ordinance may be continued in accordance with the regulations of this article unless otherwise stated. However, unless otherwise expressly stated in this ordinance, no person may engage in any activity that causes an increase in the extent of any non-conforming situation. We got a clear direction here from this ordinance. You cannot grant the variance, or should not grant that variance, if you're going to be extending the nonconformity. Well, now we're going to have a garage, We're gonna have a height. I know there's some debate whether going up is same as going sideways. We would maintain that you're expanding it from 800 to 1,600 square feet. You're expanding the extent of that nonconformity. So it's not only said there in the general section. If you go down to nonconforming structures, this is where we talk about alterations. Alterations, including enlargements and expansions, are permitted if the proposed alteration or expansion complies with all applicable lot and building regulations and does not increase the extent of the nonconformity. A building with this is an example that they provide in the UDO. A building with a nonconforming street setback, for example, may be expanded to the rear as long as the rear expansion complies with applicable rear setback regulations and all other applicable lot and building regulations. So just looking at the nonconforming statute so far, we've got one section that we're asking for a variance from. We got a second section that we're gonna ask for a variance from. Then we go to the third section that we're gonna ask a variance from under the nonconforming statutes. This is under loss of nonconforming status. When a nonconforming structure is demolished, and this is for the record, in the minutes, this is 90.030-F, loss of nonconforming status, under 2. When a nonconforming structure is demolished, damaged, or destroyed by causes within control of the owner. Now remember, this nonconforming structure runs with the land, so not necessarily this owner let it go to pot, but owners prior just let it go away. So when a nonconforming structure is demolished, damaged, or destroyed by causes within control of the owner, and the cost of renovation, repair, or replacement based on the fair market value of all materials and services is more than 50% of the appraised valuation of the structure at the time of the most recent property tax valuation or valuation determined by property owner's professional recognized appraiser, the structure may not be reestablished except in compliance with all regulations.
What article is that?
This is 90.030-F, loss of nonconforming status. So if your renovations are going to cost more than 50% of the tax value, the structure may not be reestablished except in compliance with all regulations. So we've got now 3 sections of the Uniform Development Ordinance, not to mention the variance requests in expanding the nonconforming status. For the setbacks, under section 5.030, when you're looking at the setbacks of the rear of 40 feet, and that's where they had the variance of 26 feet off of that 40 feet, the side variance on the garage, the side variance on the porch. This thing has so many variances in it, it's the most varied piece of property that would have to be constructed. I'd offer to you.
That's your question. Going back to that article 90.030F.
Yes, sir.
You did state that if the property was going downhill, dilapidated and it was because of the owner's upkeep, then that changes the whole deal right there. Because the owner did not keep the property up to start with.
Right.
Whether it be the present owner or the previous owner.
Right, and I'd offer to you now, we can get into a school of government, why these are written in such a way. Because if it's over 50%, our argument is, then build a new structure that conforms. Don't, you're just now trying to take something that was non-conforming and then simply attach to it. Clear by the photographs that we have here, that this structure is going to take a lot more than $13,000. $13,000 to build a garage, a porch, a second story, walls, plumbing, heating. Who knows how long this property has actually been sitting vacant? Who knows what's inside the property? There'll be some testimony from others here that I'll let speak. But based upon what we have here today, we believe that this property was purchased for the sole purpose of development and resale. Housing markets, as you all know, as you drive through this county, if you've got a house to sell, somebody's going to buy it, especially in Union County, and that's what we're here for. We're here to try to develop 2 parcels one on an existing little sliver. I posit to you all that they went in knowing full well, based upon their research, that they could try to get this variance for this little lot. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Dugan? Thank you, sir. Or is anyone else presenting evidence against the variance? Yes, please. Come forward, state your name.
Good evening, Board. My name is Jeff Feely, and I am a demolition and remediation expert. In fact, the very room you sit in, this building, the historical post office, we're currently engaged remodeling those buildings for you. I moved in the neighborhood about 11 and a half years ago.
Moved into which neighborhood?
Into Weddington Trace, excuse me, which is kitty corner to the applicant's property. It is beyond dilapidated. That is my expert and professional opinion. It needs to be immediately torn down. That is my expert and professional opinion.
Okay, now what, do you have documentation as far as giving us your expert opinion?
Sir, I can tell you right now that the NESHAP's definition of a demolition has everything to do with the fact that when a load-bearing beam or
No,
portion.
no, I'm saying your credentials is what I'm asking for.
I don't have it with me, sir, but I'd be happy to provide it.
Okay, but
okay.
you are in this business and that is your occupation?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So I have tried time and time again to get in touch with code enforcement, with Union County, have been pushed around. The property needs to come down, okay? You can't live in it. You can't spend $13,000 on it. That's not gonna do anything but buy a front door, and the property is gonna be the same way that it looks now. It's just impossible, okay? Asbestos. 2 years ago, I worked with a former property owner to clean up, because people were dumping back there. It's been an eyesore. I can't tell you how many times 911's been called. He told me to take some of the debris and throw it into the house. When I went into the house, I noticed suspect asbestos-containing materials. I sampled those materials. Those materials came back positive for asbestos, okay? I don't have that information with me, but I will get it. That is my professional expert testimony. There are asbestos-containing materials in that property, okay? So again, we have an issue, okay? I think it's very clear that we have an issue that someone came in and bought a lemon without doing any research and is now trying to turn it into lemonade, okay? I find it to be a travesty. I think we all get what's going on here. That's all I have.
Okay, hold on a second. Does anyone have any questions? Ms. Healy?
I think she wants to question it.
Okay, would you like to cross-examine him?
Yes, sir.
Would you please come forward?
Yes, sir. I'm not gonna cross-examine, sir, but I'm just gonna try and make a comment if you don't mind. All my neighbor, I actually have not gotten a chance to meet with them, so, hello. But thank you for sharing all that information, especially your expert opinion about asbestos, as I mentioned.
Please come to the microphone, please.
Yes, sir. We have not even checked that, so that actually saves me money. Like what he had said, sir, we may have bought a lemon, and what we are doing is I'm trying to make a lemonade for the betterment of the environment, my neighbors, and this community. I'm not asking, you guys to consider it to go against my neighbors. I'm a new neighbor. I'm incoming. I'm trying to fit in so that I could have good neighbors. All I'm asking, sir, is for us to see this opportunity not as a negative opportunity, but a positive opportunity that would not just benefit my family. It would actually benefit my neighbors, because if we can build something better out of the little that we have over there, it will help the value of their property increase. It would get rid of all the problems that they have just mentioned. It would increase the value of the property that would turn be an income from here on going forward for this community and for this county. All I'm saying is that you guys give us a chance to actually prove to them, prove to you, prove to my family that we could turn this lemon into a lemonade. That's all I'm asking, sir. And at the end of the day, you guys may be right. If it's a property that we cannot build a safe environment for my kids. I will not even waste my time pursuing something like that, sir. I don't think anybody would do that. All I'm asking is that you give us the chance to see what we can build. If we can build, absolutely. I mean, I would make sure that, you know, we build the best of what we could make out of that little land. But
Okay.
if we cannot get the permit we need, obviously, you know what, sir, I tried, but just give me the chance to at least try and go that route.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
That's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When I first moved in, I offered the current property owner $25,000 for that property for both parcels that the applicant now owns. We had a long discussion as to the liabilities that I saw associated with that property, and he said that he is going to have a difficult time getting rid of it. That's why it sat for 11 years, okay? So I don't know what conversations were presented to you, okay? But nothing's changed. Nothing's gonna change. The only way that the community can be helped is if that house, dilapidated structure, is brought down, okay? I would ask the board or somebody to contact code enforcement, because for some reason I can't get through, okay? Somebody needs to go out there and take a look at that thing and make it go away. And the asbestos that's in there needs to be removed prior to demolition in accordance with North Carolina and EPA law.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else presenting evidence against the variance? Please come forward and state your name.
Thank you. My name is Patricia Williams Siebert, and I live in Weddington Trace with my neighbors. And I don't really have any evidence, just a couple of comments. I'm probably one of the residents that's been there the longest. I built in 2006, 2007, so I came a little before you, Jeff. So as long as I've been there, sir, that structure, because has been there, and so it's been there. I visually have seen it all those years as far as it's gotten worse and worse and worse. I'm not in construction, nor do I know value as much as Jeff does, but our homes are minimum, when we built, 4,000 square feet all the way up to 5,500. There may have been a little smaller built since then, maybe in the high 3,000s when the recession hit, and then we had a different builder come in. But I'm sorry to argue with you. I don't feel that a 1,600 square foot house is going to even compare close to raising the value of our homes and helping our home and our value and our neighborhoods succeed that. I feel that our subdivision, as well as Weddington Chase and behind us, are substantially able at this point and continue to grow in equity. We pray so if we continue with the economy to grow. And I feel that that is going to do nothing but bring our homes down, our property value down, and become more of an eyesore to our homes and our subdivision in the capacity that she's speaking. That's my personal opinion from living in the subdivision, probably the longest of this current group right here. And from what I've seen, to that structure and the value of homes would not go up, sir, with that. I don't think it would help us. That's just all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or is anyone else wanting to present evidence against the variance? Yes, sir, come forward, please, state your name.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was going to speak. I did not come in to be sworn in.
Yes, sir, if you're going to speak, you'll have to be sworn in.
And then you'll need my little green slip of paper, right?
Yes, sir.
Right hand, sorry.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
Okay, would you state your name, please?
My name is Albert T. Nelson.
Would you
III.
speak in the microphone, please?
Can I lower this, please?
Yes, please.
My name is Ibra T. Nelson III. That is I-B-R-A. It's a family name. I live in the neighborhood that's across the street from these other peoples that have been speaking in Weddington Trace. I live in Weddington Chase. My home sits directly at the end of Brooms Old Mill Road, which is a dead-end road. We moved into that house on November the 18th, 2005. I remember that because it was my birthday. I gave myself my largest debt for my birthday present. But that house has been back there, I know, since, well, we know since 1961. But that house was in bad shape in 2005 when we moved in that neighborhood. And it continued to go down. There was an older gentleman that lived in that house. I did not know him, but I would see and hear him occasionally from my backyard. About probably 3 or 4 years after we moved in, the house became vacant. I don't remember the exact date, but it was about 3 to 4 years. That house has done nothing but degrade ever since. I have been one of the people that's called 911 over vandalism, kids back there drinking, doing drugs, drug deals going on. The Union County Sheriff's Office will substantiate that if you look at their records. But that house needs to be torn down. It is an eyesore. And I have seen it with my own eyes. I don't have any evidence to prove it to you. You have pictures. But I really don't think those pictures do it justice. It's really worse than it looks. Other than that, I have other neighbors that have adjacent property to me that is adjacent to them that also live in Weddington Trace. I'm not going to speak for them, but I don't believe that they would disagree with my opinion or assessment. I work for the U.S. Treasury Department. I'm not in building, I'm not in codes, but I am a national bank examiner and I do understand about real estate loans. And there's no way they can build that house to increase the value of our neighborhoods. It just won't work. So, thank you for your time. And can I answer any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Green slip.
Yes, sir. Just lay it on the table there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My home is the last house at the end of our street. The back end of my house, the back side of my house would back up to that second parcel that's separate from the one that's directly behind you guys. So it averages, and so is Jeff. We're all, and so are the neighbors that were here last time. So it definitely affects not only our entire subdivision, as well as across the street, our neighbor Whittington Chase and his neighbors. It definitely affects me as well as the neighbors here. So that's what we have a vested interest, not only just for our 5 or 6 or 7 homes, our entire subdivision. I just want to say that. So it definitely is right in behind my home and theirs. Thank you.
As we're taking evidence against you, can she come back now as evidence for? Okay, yes, ma'am.
So ask anyone any questions or address any of the points made.
Okay.
She may do so.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, we've been talking about my neighbor's concerns. I know you have concerns too on what I'm presenting in front of you. Frankly, I also have concerns about what I'm asking for after learning a lot of the information I have learned tonight. But all I'm asking.
Ma'am, hold on a minute. Now, you can cross-examine the ones that are presented evidence against, but we've already heard your testimony.
Yes,
So
sir.
do you have any cross-examination for the?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that is, some of the concerns that they mention is raising their property value. The house that I'm trying to build may not be as expensive as everybody else's house, but it's
Yes,
still.
ma'am, we understand.
Yes, sir, but it would be it's still a better value than it's in there right now. All I'm saying, sir, is what I'm asking of you, of all of you, is for you to consider for us to build something better in there.
Ma'am, you're presenting evidence for or against, and like I said, if you have cross-examination for the ones that have presented evidence against, that's fine, but otherwise, we've already heard your testimony, and we understand what you're saying.
Okay, well, yes, sir, the only other thing I would ask her is, a lot of my neighbors are mentioning that they'd rather demolish the property rather than build to it. So let me ask you, as people of the county, if we demolish the property value would be no. But
Ma'am,
if
we
we
can't- we can't
develop it
answer
to
that.
something better, it would be more beneficial for everybody.
Yes, ma'am, we cannot answer that. Thank you.
Hold on a minute, I got a
Ma'am?
question.
Hold on. You want- For her?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am, would you come back up front, please?
Yes, sir. I'm just also
I have a
saying all this.
question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
You do realize that this board cannot grant a request if it inflicts encroachment on property values that surround them, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you just presented evidence to us that you realize that you couldn't bring it up, but a little bit's better than nothing. So you've just given evidence to this board that what you're doing is gonna devalue the property in that area.
No, sir, what I'm actually not going to do of not building the property is going to bring that value
But
down.
what you said was, you're not gonna put something at the surrounding areas.
Yes, sir.
So then that brings the value down from your own admission.
No, not necessarily, sir.
Okay,
Because
well,
what
you-
that means is, if I put it this way, if I demolish the property today, the 28,000 would be nothing. But if I build something of $150,000, because all the other neighbors, not on those two very expensive neighbors, the ones on Broom's Old Mill, the properties in there are not 500, 600,000. There are standard homes that are somewhere between 150 to 300,000. All I'm saying is just to build these same property that are on that same street. And they are on that same street, sir. Not everybody on that street are as wealthy as my neighbors.
I don't have
It
any
just
more
happens
questions.
that
That's good,
my-
ma'am. That's good. Thank you.
My property sits in between those $500,000 properties.
We understand, ma'am. Thank
Yes, sir.
you. All right, is there anyone else presenting evidence against the variance? Mr. Dugan, there's some conversations going on. Does anyone else have any?
I don't believe so, unless the board has any questions for us.
All right. Yes, sir. Do you want to present evidence against? Can you come up to the podium, please? Have you been sworn in? Yes, sir. Put your right hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
Yes, I do.
Okay, would you state your name, please?
Christopher Kopak.
At the microphone.
Christopher Kopak.
Okay.
2012, I moved in, I noticed the property back there. I live in Weddington Chase, on the other side of the road. And I looked at the property thinking that I wanted to buy it at that point. But then I found out that the leach field would only support a 2-bedroom house, one bathroom. I'm curious how that's changed now. Is that increased? How do you get a bigger leach field for that septic area? If you want to build that big of a structure on it with that many bathrooms. It's actually just a question I had. I'm just curious how that works out. Can you build a bigger leach field, especially with all these setbacks and all this?
That's something we can't answer because that's part of the environmental health.
I don't know if it was looked into or how that worked out.
We actually, and that's actually what.
Ma'am, if you're going to speak, please come back up front.
Sorry. Just wanted to address that, sir. And that's exactly why I'm asking, instead of your approval, for a contingency for consideration, because at the end of the day, you know, when you approve, my next step is to get permits to make sure that asbestos, whatever other problem you guys are talking about, that we could address them properly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else presenting evidence against the variance? Anything you have, Mr.? Nope. All right. Anyone else have any questions or anybody? All right, we have now concluded the portion of the cases that pertains to the presentation of evidence. The board shall now proceed to the discussion of the portion of the cases. Interested parties are not permitted to address the board during the portion of the meeting. However, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion. At this time, we will close the open meeting.
Let's vote it in, make sure
You wanna
it's
vote it
right.
in? All right, can I get a motion?
I make a motion, we close and go into deliberation.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thoughts?
I have listened to this evidence, I understand it, but I have seen zero evidence presented to this board today that would give us any reason whatsoever to grant this variance.
Okay, let's go through the findings of facts. Number one, the strict application of the ordinance will result in an unnecessary hardship, but it is not necessary to conclude that strict application will prevent any reasonable use of this property. Comments?
The only evidence I've heard here today proves to me that the hardship would be on the surrounding areas. So I guess I've not seen any evidence that this has met to substantiate, so I would vote against this, that this has not been proven.
Okay. Anyone else?
Rick, I'm wondering if one of the gentlemen who presented evidence against said he was a professional. And I'm not sure how influential the cost of the renovation will be in our decision. But if that cost is influential, it might be a good idea to get that in writing, you know, for asbestos and things like that.
Well, I think Mr. King has already basically determined that the 50% of the renovation is only gonna be $13,000. So that kind of kills that out there.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, those in favor and feel that number one is approved, please raise your hand. Those that feel that number one has not met the requirements that we need, raise your hand. So number one is, okay, the hardship of is unique to the subject property rather than common to neighboring properties or to the general public. Comments?
Well, it is unique.
I'll agree with you. It is unique, and it is basically unique to the subject property. Any more comments?
I have a question about that. As far as the value of the house, at what point is it deemed renovations versus reconstruction? And is reconstruction grandfathered in?
I think that's up to the homeowner. That was as far as whether they determine whether it's worth rebuilding or tearing it down.
Well, I think you're asking when it's grandfathered in, and that's where that 50% number comes in. If the work that's going to be done on the house is more than 50% of the value of the house, then they need a variance. If it were less, then they could do some limited construction, and I think you heard 13,000 is that threshold. They need 150. They need to put 150,000 into it, so they certainly would need a variance. If they were coming in and only putting $10,000 worth of work into it, they wouldn't need to come to you at all.
That's what I thought. So addressing number two, it says, is it unique to the property? It is, but that respect is the same to the general public.
Well, the other thing that's been shown tonight, this was built in 1961, and there's probably wasn't a lot of regulations at all about anything. But really and truly, for the size of the piece of property in question here, there's not enough area to put a well and a septic tank on it, because they would encroach on themselves within that area.
Okay. I think one important point that we could go back to is what Mr. Dugan brought out, was the 90.3030F, the loss of the value of the property was caused by the property owner, not by hurricanes, not by anything else. It was the loss of the property owner itself.
Yep.
And that qualifies to me that is, even though it's a hardship unique to the subject property, the hardship was brought on itself by the previous homeowner. Mr. Thurman, would you agree?
That's a reasonable fact for you, a conclusion for you to come to. I'm not gonna opine
Oh, I
on whether it's
understand that.
accurate.
Or what- is that
But I have to
acceptable?
say that's a reasonable conclusion for you to come to.
It's absolutely, if the house had been kept up over the last, since 1961, and it looked really nice right now, and it was still had windows and doors, it would be worth more than $26,000.
That's correct, on the property.
So,
All right, so ready to vote on this one? Those that feel like that is a positive on this hardship, on number 2, raise your hand. Those that go against it, raise your hand. All right, the hardship relates to conditions peculiar to the subject property, size, shape, topography, rather than personal circumstances for the applicant or owner of the subject property. Okay, to me, it does, the hardship does relate to the subject property. But the reason the hardship is there is because of the way they're wanting to use the property. The property could be used for a smaller house, according to kind of the way it looks to me. Like, what do y'all think?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the increase, the code cannot increase the degree of nonconformity. And by expanding that, I guess I have to check with Derek about that particular section of the law, about increasing the degree of nonconformity on this property, because that's what we would do.
That is a point you can consider when you're making these findings of fact. The variance, they're not asking, keep in mind, they're not asking to go further into the setback. The line is gonna stay at the 26-foot mark. There is some proposal to get into the setback on either side of the house. You're correct. So that does increase the amount of nonconformity. That's the reason they're here. That's the purpose for requesting the variance. But certainly the extent of what they want to do is something you can consider, certainly.
But in a way, when I first looked at this, I didn't really think, I considered it as an increase to the degree of nonconformity because it does keep within that 26 feet.
But with evidence we've heard, by allowing them to go even higher, it also goes against in a whole different direction.
Right.
Because they'll be too high for the amount of distance from the property lines.
Okay, so the hardship relates to conditions peculiar to the subject property rather than personal circumstances or the applicant or owner of the subject property. So what would be the answer to that one? Somebody give me some suggestions.
well, based on the reality that another structure could be built within the setback. That structure could be torn down, another one could be built within the setback. To me, now, we don't have to get in whether there can be a well or septic down here.
That's correct.
We don't, that's why we've already, we can't,
But it
but
could get,
they could build a structure and meet the setbacks. So
Yes.
therefore,
A new structure could be built.
and given the fact that they can't spend $13,000 on what's there, they cannot bring it up to standard, so I think, yeah.
Okay, those in favor of item 3, please show of your hands. Those in disagreement with it, please show your hand. And just for the audience's clarification, we have the findings of facts of 5, and that's what we're going through. This variance has to meet all of these variances, and that's what we're going through now, just for clarification. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the closed hearing. All right, number 4. The hardship is not the result of actions taken by the applicant or subject property owner, although the act of purchasing property, knowing that a variance may be needed or required, does not constitute self-created hardship. And I'll agree with that. I think the property owner knew what they were getting into when they bought it. So it goes back to them not as a personal hardship, but as a decision they made. Is that acceptable?
Well, to be clear, you need to parse this. Read the first clause. The hardship is not the result of actions taken by the applicant.
Okay.
That's what you need to answer. It qualifies and says the fact that they bought up the property knowing there are problems, you cannot hold that against them. So it's okay for someone to buy a piece of property knowing you're gonna need a variance to do what you wanna do, and that cannot be held against you in making this one determination. So the fact that you know that, set that aside,
Okay.
and just read that first part before the comma and make your determination.
Okay, the hardship is not the result of actions taken by the applicant or subject property owner. I'll have to say that was good. What do y'all think?
I agree.
All in favor?
Yes.
Raise your hand. All against? All right, that was good. All right, then number 5, by granting the variance, the spirit of this ordinance will be observed. Public safety and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done. Comments?
The testimony I've heard tonight is exactly the opposite of that.
So the evidence presented will not support that.
You might wanna include some items of that in that finding.
Well, I would say one would be the 100-foot circle from an existing well on another person's property.
Is that
You
acceptable?
wanna
Right.
include that, if that's
Yeah.
what is informing the statement you opened with, that you've heard the opposite. I guess, what I think you need to do is, you said you've heard the evidence was the opposite. I think you need to summarize for the chair what that evidence,
Okay.
what you think that evidence is.
All right.
Property values? Property values?
Yeah, the value of the property, what it would do to the other homes,
Degrading value.
degrade the value, and then also the fact of putting a sewer system on that piece of property would infringe on the well of a existing homeowner.
Okay, I've got the 100-foot circle of the existing well pertaining to the septic. Okay, anyone have anything else?
Did you put the devaluing of the property?
The degrade value of the other property surrounding. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. Mr. Irvin, you have any?
Nope.
Okay.
Y'all need to vote on that.
Yes, right. Yeah. All right, from what I'm seeing now, that out of the 5 findings of fact, we have 1, 2, excuse me?
We never voted on number 5.
Yeah, we need to vote on
Okay,
that.
I apologize. I apologize. You're right. All right, those that are in agreement with number 5, please raise your hand. And those in disagreement with it, raise your hand. Thank you. All right, so that one is that. So out of the 5 findings of facts, we had 1 that was good. And of course, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the variance.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? All right. So the variance variance is denied. Thank you all for your attendance tonight. Thank you for the evidence that's been presented.
Close.
All right, so, what we've got now,
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry. What does that mean if it's denied? Does that mean that they can't build in perpetuity, or can they reapply?
according to the board's decision tonight, we have denied the variance.
Is that forever?
Can
Or
be
is that
appealed.
for a year or 2
Can be
years?
appealed.
It can be appealed.
There's an appeal option, and they can reapply for a variance 1 year from today.
What they have to do is they have to have some substantial new evidence to request the same variance. Otherwise, it's gonna be a totally different variance. And that would be up to the board to decide whether or not there's substantial new evidence.
Okay.
They do also have the right to appeal to the Superior Court.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for your time. Mr. King?
Do you mind if I just ask a quick question on that? Does that mean we have to demolish the property, or does that mean we could build like within the area?
That's not a question we can answer.
Yeah, just talk to Mr. King.
Yes.
He'll help with it.
Okay, the exhibit,
Yes, and I'll give you a copy tomorrow.
and here is the exhibits of the findings of fact. The first one.
Martha may be with you.
All right, is there any other discussion? Anything we need to discuss, Mr. Stone? Any members have any discussion?
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
King?
Rick, any what? Do you ask any questions?
I said, do we have anything else that the board needs to
Oh.
discuss?
No. But we didn't do the minutes, right?
We did not, did we?
You did.
We did approve the
You
minutes.
approved the minutes.
Oh, we approved it, that was really quick. Okay.
All right, Mr. Jensen, you have anything? Mr. King? All right, do I hear?
It's good to come back every once in a while. I enjoy it.
I hear a motion to dismiss. At the end of the meeting.
So moved.
Unless there's any other discussion.
Motion adjourned.
Motion, there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. I have got to go to the rest.